All right. Okay, all right, yeah. So basically, how you're gonna do it is, so if in the first module you do really well, then the second one will be harder because they want to be adaptive testing. So this time they're like, because of the digital SAT, they can assess like how good you are based on how many rights and wrongs you get, right? So if you're a student who does really well in the first one, they want to give you a harder paper so that it's kind of more fair, if that makes sense. So same way, if you don't score that well in the first one, in the first module, then the second module will be slightly easier one, just so that you can score better instead of having really hard questions. So that's how it's gonna be. But then about the marking part, like the thing about SATs, you cannot tell your exact marks, okay? Because it's not like, okay, one question is like 5 or 10 marks. Like each question is marked differently. Like I remember one time I was doing a practice paper, and for math, I think I got like two questions wrong once, and then one time I got one question wrong, but then the marks I got was still same. So I think it's honestly just difficulty of the question. So based on that, you'll have like the amount of mistakes. Like maybe in the module one, the questions are not as highly marked as module two. So it's kind of just depends on that thing. Your aim is just to get like the most amount of questions right as you can. So yeah, that's how you can do. And also just focus on time
Okay.
management. I mean, I've talked a lot about time management stuff. Maybe I'll do it before your guys' exam. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now, yeah. And I think let's do like English today, if that's okay with everyone. If you want to do math, then just let me know. But otherwise, I just continue with English. All right. Yeah. So I'm just gonna open up one of the. All right, 1 second. Yeah, I'll open up this course and we can just do one together. Like, do you guys have any difficulty in one particular? Let's do medium one today. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so yeah. All right. So these are all the different parts as there. There's command of evidence, then there's like the different types, quantitative, textual, central ideas and details, inferences, and yes, all these are okay. Let's just do the quizzes. So we can do a quiz, and then because from the quiz we'll get to know like we'll get a bunch of different topics, questions. So I'm just going to quiz one. I want you guys to answer it. So just solve it with me, and then we can do it. All right. Okay. Okay. I hope you guys are able to see it. So this is the graph that's there. I will try to zoom this out. Okay. So you can read the question and the graph, and then I'll go to the options. So let me know once you're done. Okay, all right. So these are the options. I'll just kind of put it for the graph a bit longer, and then you can go down. Okay, I got. Yeah, that's okay. If you have to, that's completely fine. You can watch later. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna go down to the options now, yeah. No problem. Okay, all right. So, the other people who are here, do you guys wanna like maybe share your opinions, or has anyone thought of the answer, like how we can go about this question? Like, do you guys have an idea, or do you want me to explain it? All right, okay. So it'd be better if you guys were able to speak up, but if you can't, that's all right. So I'm just gonna start like explain the question how I think it should be. You're free to drop in your answers, or if you want a minute or two more, then you can let me know. Then we can just I'll just wait for like a couple of minutes until you guys share your answers first. Do you want to do that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, no problem. So I'll just wait for a couple of more minutes, and I'll just keep this on, and then in a minute I'm gonna go to the options so you guys can see and then share your answers. Okay, okay, I'm gonna go down now at the options. I know like you need to look at the graph, but I don't think I'll be able to show both of them together. So you can just maybe have a quick look at the options and I'll go back if you want. Okay, so you think it's A, all right. So I will, yeah, honestly, I was gonna say that the answer should also be A. Yeah, so this is A only. The thing is, here, let's just check it. Yeah. Okay. So you guys got it correct. So I won't like spend that much time explaining it. But for graph questions, I'll just tell you guys a couple of tips so that you're a little bit faster. So you want to just like have a very quick glance at the graph. Okay. Like just see what is it explaining? Like what does the graph say? So just look at the titles like suggestion for improving a university. And then this the x-axis like additive subtractive, invalid, something like that, right? So, okay, we have an idea of what is the graph telling us? And then in a graph question, you don't really have to read the whole paragraph, yeah? Like if you want to make yourself quicker, just read the last line or maybe like a line before that. But the one that is connecting with the to the blank, that is the most important one. So just read that, right? Like what is it asking us? So it's just telling that the data illustrates how people have a tendency to overlook the possibility of removing things. So removing things is basically what subtraction. So it's saying how people tend to overlook subtractions, means not really think about subtracting. So we know that this subtraction has to be a major part of it, and only the first option is the one that's correct, right? Even the last one, it's talking about neither additive nor subtractive. Now that's not really what we're looking for, right? And also, if in case, this is last resort, if you have no idea what to do, what you can do is you can just look at all the data in the graph. Okay, so you can just look at the options, and some of the options, maybe one or two, will have wrong data. Like the numbers won't match the actual graph. So you can also directly look at that if you have no idea how to go about a question. So that can be pretty helpful as well. Okay, we'll just look at, okay, this is just a straight question. I'll keep it like this. Okay, so I got one answer. That's D. I'm just gonna wait for a second more. Yeah, you raised your hand. You can speak up. That's okay.
No, it was by mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, all right. So I'll now honestly, I'm just gonna check at the option that you said. Okay, and then we're gonna discuss. I'll just give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. Honestly, according to me, D should also be the correct answer. Yeah, because now for these kind of questions, the only thing is I remember when I was doing my actual SAT, like questions like this, especially when it's a bit wordy and you're like in the examination hall, there can be like a little bit of pressure in you because you need to actually understand the question. Okay, like you actually need to understand what is it trying to say. So when you come like a long paragraph, if you feel like you don't have that much time or you're kind of panicking right now, you can kind of just skip one question and go ahead because it'll definitely do you better. Because if you're gonna try to read this and then if you know that you're not in the headspace right now, you're just gonna end up wasting more time. Yeah. So if you want like maybe if you have lesser time and you feel like you won't be able to solve it, you're just gonna waste more time. Maybe try to focus on the other question. That's okay. But okay, for this question, what's it trying to say, tell us? It's basically telling how like the painted portraits that was kind of reduced, like the people's obsession over painted portraits, that was reduced, and it was at around the same time when photography started increasing, right, among people. But then it's telling us that although like it was at the same time, this was not the case. Like the reason why portraits were less popular was not because photography was increased, right? That's what it's trying to tell us. Because even before photography was increased, there was already decline in both miniature and large size portraits. That's the main idea of the text, right? Like when you're kind of reading a paragraph, try to explain to yourself what is the main idea. So now when you look at the options, no, it's telling us first understand that because the portraits obsession decreased, artists directly started going into photography. They started focusing on photography. There is no mention of anything as such like that. So you don't want to make such long assumptions, right? You see, you want to look at the option which is most directly connected to the paragraph. You don't want to like think about okay how you don't need to be able to like make a whole story to get that answer. It should not be that long. All right. It's the same way. The B one, this one also there's no mention of anything like that in the text. C, this is actually like um this is also not mentioned at all. There's nothing of artistic merit in the paragraph, so we cannot really tell anything about that. So whatever's not mentioned, we cannot say anything about it. You don't need to use your knowledge in paragraph. So we just go to what's given, and that's option B. Okay, we're going to go to the next question now. Okay, do you guys have any answer? Okay, I just got one. Okay, your guess is A. All right. I kind of think that the answer for this question should be B, but okay, we're gonna try out A and then check what's the answer. Okay, so A is not the one. Let's try B. Yeah. Okay, so basically, for this question, this one is kind of tricky because none of like, and in the first glance, I didn't know which one was the correct answer. Like, I mean, I didn't feel like any of the options fit. But okay, let's just tell what it's. Let's look at what the paragraph is telling. So it's talking about two types of rocks. Okay, and first one was about 4.02 billion years ago, that is connecting to the rocks of today's age in a plume setting. Okay, so just make that connection. So in the plume setting, the rocks are similar to the ones found 4.4 billion years ago. And then in the other kind of setting, which is called as a subduction setting, those kind of rocks were found 3.75 or 3.6 billion years ago. So that in two different settings, we have two different rocks from two different time eras. All right. Now, the first one, the majority of rocks in Akasta this complex formed through subduction. So, okay, we know that the rocks from 3.75, 3.6 billion years ago, they were from through subduction, but there is nowhere said that they are most of the rocks, right? We don't know what is the actual like amount of rocks in both of them. It's just telling that okay, these rocks were these many years ago. So we cannot really make that assumption. Now for C, um, the rocks in the Akasta, they're of more recent origin than previously thought. So there was the rocks. There's still two different eras of two different times. Like it's not that it was not like that scientists thought it was 4 billion years ago and then now they found out that they're 3.6 or 7 billion years ago. That's not the case, right? They are two equally existing rocks that are from separate timing. So we cannot have seized the option. Now for D, now, subduction replaced mantle plume formation as the most common geological process by about 4.02 billion years ago. So this one was might have been correct, but then you had to look at the dates again. So we're talking about subduction, but then the timing is 4.02. So we know that subduction was actually 3.7 or 3.6 billion years ago. So that means this is like factually incorrect. Like the fact is not stated right. Now for B, we can tell the three subduction-like process began occurring in sublocations no later than 3.75 billion years ago. So it's basically telling that 3.75 billion years ago, this was the earliest that subduction started. And this is true because before this, there was a different process that was happening in plume setting. So that's why, I think B was the correct answer. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so I got one answer. That's A. All right. I'm just gonna wait. So for this question, I think again this is a slightly tricky question. I actually had a feeling that it was A too, but the only thing that's kind of putting me off that it cannot be A is that so it's telling us that the conclusion of the whole experiment, or like the conclusion was that the wet and warm scenario is likely correct. Now, what is the wet and warm scenario? It's this one, the so-called wet and warm. It's telling us a prolonged phase of warm wet conditions. So prolonged phase means it's a long phase, right? Like a long phase of wet and warm conditions. But then this one is telling us most consistent with it having formed as a result of a massive but short-lived influx of liquid water. So the short-lived influx, I think that's the only one that kind of contradicts the long phase of warm water, which is why I feel A might not be the correct answer. But let's try it out. I could be wrong too. Okay, yeah. So I think, yeah. So it's telling the same point, like a massive but short-lived influx. It's contradicting the statement. Okay, I got B as an answer. All right, let's try that out. So for this one, I thought it might be B2 or D, but let's just check. Right. Okay. So this one is not also correct because the B, like, I don't think anywhere having this kind of tells us more about warm and wet conditions, right? Like, I don't think it's expressing more on it. Like, okay. Yeah, so lava is not mentioned anywhere in the wet and warm conditions. We're talking about water. So adding lava is kind of like an unnecessary point that we cannot really tell anything about. Okay, so between C and D, um, I have a feeling that it could be C. Let's just check. Oh, 1 second. Okay, let's just try out C. Yeah. Okay. So I actually thought it would be D as well, but then C is not like D is not supporting it as much as C is doing. The reason why like I was kind of confused between C and D is because they both are supporting the idea, right? D1 is telling that it is unlikely to be formed of some asteroid or comet impact. So the basin, that means it could have been an actual basin. So it is telling it's true. But then when you talk about the option C, it's talking about an ocean being there, right? An ocean which underwent gradual sea changes. So this is kind of telling us that over a long period of time, there were like warm and wet conditions. So C is more supportive. That's why C is the correct answer here. Okay, let's look at this question. Okay, this one is like a comparatively easier question, so I'm just gonna wait for like a minute and then we can discuss it. Okay, got one answer. Yeah, okay. I also think it's D. This one, let's just check. Yeah. Okay, that's great. You both got it right. I don't think I'm gonna explain much, but yeah, this is the only one that kind of agrees to what it's saying. For first one, like acoustic properties of piano, that was not what was discussed in the like experiment. Like we were not discussing that, so it cannot be that. And then this one actually contradicts what the suggestion is. So D is the only correct one. Okay, so we got this one. Okay, that is great. Let us go back into the course and I'll go to the next quiz section. One second. Okay, we did the first quiz, so I'll just go to the next quiz. So we can like, unless you guys want to practice the same kind of topic again, that's also fine. But first, let's just do this one. It won't be that long. Okay, this one is also kind of easier, but I'm just gonna wait for a minute for you guys to answer. Yeah, okay, great. I got an answer. Okay, I got D. Yeah, D is the correct answer to this question. Um, yeah. So, like, you might be tempted to only read the underlined part, but then the these kind of questions, they ask us like, what is the like function of this underlined part to the whole paragraph. So you need to understand the whole context of the paragraph so that you can make out the context of the line. So make sure that you read the whole line and then you'll be able to do it. So basically this one is telling us like, how does a horizontal gene transfer occur, like what is one kind that it happens. So I think D is the correct answer, because all the other ones, it's not what the sentence is saying. So yeah, there's that. Okay. Okay, all right. So this one is like meaning kind of question, right? Now, in my actual SAT, I think I had about two questions, two or three, about word meanings. And actually what happened, I did not even know the exact meaning of the words. Like I think there were four words from which I did not know two meanings, and then two meanings I knew that, and I knew that that won't be the answer. So I was left to just guess between two options because I was not sure. I really hope that doesn't happen for you guys. But if you have a meaning kind of questions, I think your best friend or like best help is the elimination option. Okay, so from the starting only, you can eliminate what you think is incorrect, because that can be really helpful. Now, in this case, it's just telling how um they found an entire complete set of pesoi, and these are game pieces. And it's also saying that this is usually rare to find because they're so small, they easily get lost. And that's why the whole thing is not usually found all together. But then scientists actually did find the whole thing all together, right? So they thought that, okay, maybe they buried it intentionally, like this was their intention to purposely bury the whole thing together. But then they have no actual clear evidence, right? So, okay. D Okay, so that's why, see, okay, I don't think it's correct. I think C is the correct answer, and the reason why, let's just check. Yeah, okay. So let's look at the meaning, okay? So it's the question, sorry. So it's saying without clear evidence, archaeologists are left to dash what happened. So dismiss means you're letting it go, like you're just removing the whole thing. They're not dismissing it. They're trying to find out more about it, right? So dismiss cannot be correct. Catalog is like a whole proper from start to finish in an alphabetical order. You're properly like recording the whole thing. They cannot do that either because they do not have the proper evidence. Now, between speculate about and expand on. Speculate means you're suspecting something. Like, okay, I am assuming that this happened, which fits the most here. Because see, expand on means usually like you're giving like you're explaining more about a concept or like you're going deeper into something. But in this case, they cannot really go that deep into something without knowing that much. So that's why they're just assuming, right? See, um this has led some experts to suggest, right, or without clear evidence. These are kind of signs that are like assuming. So that's why C should be the correct answer. Also, in some cases, like especially when it's word meaning kind of questions and you don't know what exactly it is, try to look at like the same line or try to look at the paragraph in general and just see like am I seeing positive words or are these negative words? Because usually you can get like an idea of what the paragraph is like what's the context, once when you understand the context it's become easier. So for example, if the paragraph is usually using negative words, then you know that the word has to be something sort of negative, right? Like expand on. Okay, so this is not clear cut negative or positive words, but it's more of just understanding like the kind of words that are surrounding it. So in my case right now, like I told you, like how suggesting or without clear evidence, that was kind of made me what believe more that C should be the answer. So you can just kind of think of it that way as well. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it like this. Okay, I'm just gonna go down. Hopefully you guys have seen the first text. Pick an answer. Okay, so I've got an A. Um, I feel that the answer for this one should be D. Okay, let's just check. Yeah, okay. So for this one, A is like I can kind of I know like I can understand why you thought of the answer, but let's just look at the option. Okay, see, by objecting that bees were actually experiencing a negative feeling akin to stress rather than a positive feeling. Now, for the first one, the first sentence, this one that's underlined, it's not really talking about like a positive or negative feeling, right? Like they're not telling that the bees are feeling something positive. They're just saying that the bees might be like just playing, or having fun. So even though that is a positive feeling, we're not gonna make that long connection just already, you know? And also, the thing is, this text two, it's not a second study. Like, it's just a general text. It's not talking about the same one. Like, it's just telling about the different things that we know. So it's telling us that how one person, like the gal page, her team, they found out that bees could be possibly playing. And then it's saying that other tests or other studies also show that bees do not feel positive feelings, but they might rather feel negative feelings, similar to stress. And then third one is saying that even though all these things, that might be true or not, like even if it is true, like for example, they are having feelings, it might be very rudimentary. Rudimentary means very basic, means very base level. Okay, so text two is just general things that we know, and it's making a normal brief conclusion. So for them to tell that no, it's wrong, I don't think that A should be the correct answer, because this text though is not telling that oh, they only feel negative feelings, right? And similarly in the first one, it's not telling that it's positive or negative. Okay. So same way, B is completely wrong because it's talking about humans. There's no context about human feelings here, so that we can just move it. And then C1, so by arguing that some insects other than bumblebees may be capable of experiencing complex emotional states. We're not talking about like any other insects apart from bees. So why would we like add that point? So C is also wrong. That's why D should be correct, because see, it's saying that by noting that even if they were actually playing, these feelings would be quite basic, which is the meaning of rudimentary. So D should be the correct answer. Okay, let's go next question. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna wait for you guys to maybe drop in an answer and then we'll discuss. Looking for an answer. Okay, so since I got B, all right. Yeah, B is actually the correct answer because yeah, you both are correct. It's amazing. Yeah, and I won't really expand more on it because yeah, we can just make it out unless you want me to explain more. Because all the other options, they're not pertaining to what the text is actually saying, and B is the one that fits the most. Okay, let's go to next question. I'm gonna go slightly down to see the options. All right, I got an answer. Okay, I got D. Okay. I'm just gonna wait for the more to answer, but I have feeling it should be A. Yeah. Okay. So I also think it should be A, just because. Wait, let's just check it. Yeah. Okay. So in this one, consumers' growing interest in purchasing experiences is mostly confined to music industry. Now, we don't really know that, right? Like, no other industries being talked about here. So we cannot make an assumption of stuff only about music industry, right? Let us, like, we should look more into things. What is text one saying? What are the people in text two saying? And what is something that they both would agree on? Like, see, the B and C, the B and C, right? They both are connecting these two topics, but we can't really connect them both because the person in text one is only talking about live music experiences, and this one they're talking about like music on Spotify, things like those. So we don't know what the one person feels about the other condition, right? They were only talking about their own conditions. So the B and C can't really be connected. That's only the first one. It agrees with both of them because it's saying changing consumer behaviors are leading to changes in music related business. Because first one is saying that because people want to have a whole experience, venues are also very important. So that means changes, they're talking about different changes. Same in text two, it's talking about how like musicians are more dependent on a certain thing or the other. So that's why I think it should be correct. There are only like a couple of minutes left now, so maybe we'll just do one last question. I'll just like do this again. Maybe do one question and then you guys can. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just gonna keep it here so you can look at the options. You got an answer? Okay, for this one also I got A. Okay, so I think the answer for this one should be C. I got one more. Okay, I got one more. All right. Let's go with A and then we'll check if it's correct or if it's C. I'm not. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's try out C. Yeah. Okay. So see for this one, the only thing is it's saying it cautions the readers. Now, with a sentence, that's a question. Like this sentence, it's not a sentence, right? It's a question. Who can calculate the orbit of his own soul? Like they're saying, who can even do that? Now, your option just it cautions the readers the that the text direction for how to achieve self knowledge are hard to follow. Now, this is more like a rhetorical question, right? Like you guys know what rhetorical questions are, right? So this is a rhetorical questions. So that can't really caution the reader. Like there is no statement that's telling us something about caution or being careful, or it's not explaining something. It's just saying that who can even do that? Like who honestly can do that? That's why option C. Like for this one, I didn't look into each question which is wrong or right. I think it was one that fit the best, and C is the only one that fit because I think it reinforces the text skepticism means unsurety about the possibility of truly achieving self-knowledge. So it's saying who can calculate the orbit of your soul. Like this is talking about who can even know, who can even find out about self-knowledge, right? Who will even get to know that? So I think that's why C is the correct one. I hope you guys understand it. But yeah, I mean, I'll be like stopping my screen now. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys actually like got to know something and it was like pretty helpful. If you guys have any doubts, you can totally ask me like now or anytime later. But yeah, apart from that, if you guys are done, you can leave. That's okay. Thank you so much for joining. I'll stop the recording now.